Congratulations, you have passed your comps, and now the true fun begins, your culminating project. Welcome to Getting Out of Graduate School Intact. My name is Mikan, and I'm your friendly graduate school tour guide. In this episode titled Thesis, Pro Paper, Capstone, Dissertation, Oh My, we will discuss some tools and resources you have at your disposal to help you be successful. I cannot stress this part enough. Utilize all of the services and tools available to you. So let's make sure you get your money's worth. We're going to start in the library. Chances are by now you've had frequent opportunities to haunt the stacks of your university's library. You probably even have a preferred study room. But have you made friends with the subject matter librarian for your field or the interloan librarian? No? You should. They can help make your life so much easier. Let's talk about how. Beginning with WorldCat and the Interloan Librarian, largest library catalog. This catalog allows students to connect to and request resources such as books, articles, maps, audio and video recordings from libraries all over the world. Without realizing it, I selected a topic for which my school's library had one book, and it was not a primary source. The 2 semesters I did research, I lived on WorldCat. By the time my first semester was over, I was on the first name basis with the interloan librarian. I carried around an oversized plastic shopping bag, which, if memory serves, was an IKEA bag, and every 2 weeks I would empty the books from the previous haul and refill it with a new batch. I don't know who was happier, the interloan librarian or me when I reached the point where I didn't have to order or request any more books. Next, let's talk about the subject area librarian. Most university libraries have subject area librarians. These librarians specialize in specific fields and often assist in research and locating resources for students in those subject areas. They are the library's version of Indiana Jones. They can help you find and show you where to look for those random objects of treasure you didn't know how to find. Another resource provided to you by the library is RefWorks. I want to issue a caveat here. Not every library has RefWorks, and people have mixed experiences with it. I have had students fully utilize all the tools provided by RefWorks. They've created bibliographies and use it as a place to store their citations, which I personally support, with the understanding that you still need to double check the biblio it creates for you, as it is not always 100% accurate. Myself, I primarily use RefWorks to store and organize my references and sources. So now let's talk about programs and workshops. At some universities, the library offers different programs and workshops, allowing students to connect with and work alongside other students working on dissertations or theses. Some provide research or writing boot camps in partnership with the Graduate College, Student Success Center, or the Writing Lab. While we're on the subject of writing labs, let's discuss writing services. From my experience, most graduate students do not realize that they qualify to use the university's Writing Center. They think that this is a service only provided to undergraduate students. That is not the case. This service is included in the student. A few important things to know about this service. 1, they help you learn how to edit your stuff and will help review your document for clarity and citations. They do not edit the document for you. 2, most writing labs have a limit on how many pages they will review at a time. From my experience, it's about 10 pages, and you're limited on how many times you can go a semester. 3, let them know you are a graduate student working on your culminating project and request to work with another graduate student. Now let's talk about boot camps. The vast majority of universities offer some type of dissertation or thesis boot camp. What the boot camp covers, how long it is, and how often they are provided depends on the university. I have been to boot camps that were very basic and lasted a few hours, and I have attended and presented at boot camps that ran for an entire week, and the students were required to attend a variety of breakout sessions over the course of 20 hours. These camps often bring in representatives from the Writing Center, the content librarians, the thesis dissertation reader, and the graduate school coordinator, as well as other resources provided by the university. For example, some universities have people who help students with quantitative research. If you can attend one, I highly recommend you do so. From my experience, dissertations and dissertation students. However, if you're working on your pro paper or a capstone, reach out to the person coordinating the boot camp as they may allow you to attend. Let's talk about resources available to you in the graduate school. Graduate school is another place for you to check for thesis or dissertation support. Most universities have a dissertation or thesis reader. Where the differences tend to be is at what stage you will meet and work with them. Some universities allow and encourage you to work with them as soon as you've defended your prospectus, while other places are more hands off and you will not interact with the reader until after you've defended your dissertation or thesis. Almost every university in the US has a dissertation thesis format unique-ish to that school. The guide, example, or template for the university is usually housed with the grad school or sometimes the library. Before you get too far down the writing path, I highly recommend that you reach out to the reader and request a copy of the guide. Your life will be so much easier if you start out in the format rather than trying to adapt your work at the end. The end is easy to get frustrated as this is the fine-tooth combing of your work, and it is occurring when you are at capacity, over-caffeinated, sleep-deprived, and it will feel like nails on a chalkboard. This is another set yourself up for success moments. Read the style guide for your school. In almost all cases, it trumps the style manual for your program. Because most capstone and pro paper projects are kept in the department and are not subject to graduate school oversight like thesis and dissertations are, often this resource is limited to those writing a thesis or dissertation. That said, if you're a student completing a professional paper or capstone, I would still reach out to the reader and check. Frequently, when it was slow for me, I would assist students working on professional papers. Next, let's talk about dataset tools. Most universities have qualitative data software available for students to use. The most commonly used are Envio, Tableau, and the tried and true SPSS. Sometimes the university allows students to download a copy to use while they are enrolled in classes, but more often than not, the software is only available for use in math labs, the library, and other resource areas on campus. If your research calls for you to use stats and it is something you are not comfortable with, ask around. They may have additional resources available, like math tutors. At one of the universities where there was a stats professor that if you took his class, he would sit on your committee just to help you with the statistics. So ask around. There are almost always resources. It's just a matter of finding them. Now we're going to discuss the slightly unconventional resource group, otherwise known as your drinking club. This group is a ragtag group of kindred students you have trauma bonded with, usually members of your program, cohort, or people you've met in dissertation boot camp. This group will help you find articles, will involve thesis and dissertation trades where you take turns reading each other's works, writing dates at their place, yours, the library, or coffee shop, These dates are super exciting and usually involve a table covered with books, pens, highlighters, laptops, your beverage of choice, and all of you in noise canceling headphones. But often the most important thing this group provides to you is a sounding board for your frustrations. For a variety of reasons, dissertation thesis land is one of the most difficult places to be. And this is the time when you see a lot of students stop out and not complete. This group will often be your biggest cheerleader, help keep you on task when you're frustrated and want to stop, and remind you that you can complete and you can do it. Now, here's one that's also slightly unconventional, a scholarly writing course. Some universities offer a writing course for fee or no credit class that helps you to learn how to write scholarly. If your university does not offer this class, there are other universities that do and provide it online. It might be a good idea for you to enroll in one of these classes. Here, the stakes are low, and from my experience, everyone could benefit from a polish or two of their writing. Now, let's get into the projects. Let's talk about professional paper, capstone, or portfolio. Students who have selected this option tend to be governed by the rules of their chair and department. Many of these projects still require committee as well as defenses, so work closely with your advisor. Talk to them and see if there are any options to have your work published. Finally, work with the library, as many university libraries now have open access repositories, which include sections where you can upload your student research. Thesis and dissertations, more terms. There are many different variations of dissertation methods and formats. The most commonly used research methods are the mixed methods, qualitative, and quantitative. While formats tend to fall into one or two categories, traditional and multimodal. Once you have selected your research topic, work with your chair. You will decide which research method and format best suits your research. It is important that you, your chair, and committee agree on which method you should use. This typically will be the discussion during your prospectus proposal defense. I once had a student whose research was supposed to be using mixed methods approach, and during the course of writing, their committee chair had them drastically scale down the data sets. During the defense of her dissertation, her committee was surprised to be reviewing a paper lacking data sets. The committee decided the data that had been removed was key to the dissertation's argument, ended up having to stay back a semester to add back in the data set she had taken out. Knowing which method works best for your topic and which method you are using and why you think it is the best option is important. It is a question your committee will ask you during your defense. As such, it is important to know and understand. The differences. Let's start by discussing the three research methods. Qualitative. This method I refer to as the method that likes to talk it out or tell you a story. It employs literary reviews, analysis, oral history. This method works best for discovering the how and why something happened. Students research and writing topics in English, history, sociology, and or art fields tend to use this method. Quantitative. Unlike the qualitative method, this approach likes numbers. This is the show me the numbers method. This method allows numerical and statistical analysis and works best for the topics uncovering the what and how much. As a thesis and dissertation reviewer, this was my least favorite type to review. So many tables. But personal feelings aside, this approach tends to be used by students researching and writing on topics in math, engineering, and other STEM fields. Mixed methods. Mixed methods is the approach I say is the child wants to tell you a story, but isn't afraid to throw out a data set or two to back it up. This research method is often used when the topic looks at the who, the why, the how, and the what. Because of its blend of qual and quant methods, it is most used by every field. It is most used by every field. Now that we've briefly discussed the more common research methods, let's look at the two most common formats for a dissertation or thesis: the traditional and the multimodal. Traditional, this format is the one we're most familiar with. That said, most dissertations are submitted digitally, as many schools, in an effort to go paperless and save needed shelf space in the library, no longer require paper copies, but the format remains the same. Multimodal. Multimodal takes advantage of the fact that the dissertation or thesis is being produced in a digital format. This format allows for embedded video, hyperlinked, and interactive sections. Your imagination and your topic are your limits. There was a doctoral student out of Clemson, I think in 2000, hip hop videos. Prospectus. Depending on the requirements of your program and the school, the prospectus will include a brief introduction to the topic, a short review of lit, and an overview of your research methods. Many schools have a page limit for prospectus, typically not to exceed 10 pages. When your research chair feels it is ready, you will have a mini defense on the topic to make sure it is viable and meets the requirements set forth by your committee and your program. Once it is defended and you have completed any cook, you will move forward into the active research phase. I do want to pause here and remind you to review what your catalog says your next step is, as some schools require you to also receive permission from the graduate college before beginning the research phase. This is where reading the section of the catalog on prospectus, thesis, and dissertations comes in handy. Now, according to the graduate catalog we have read before we enrolled in classes, what are the rules and responsibilities of your committee chair and your committee members? What are your... This is a two-way street. It is a dirty little secret, but your final project, be it pro paper, capstone, thesis, or dissertation, is, in reality, a team project. One of the hardest things for some students to realize and accept